offered some, I forget what we were talking about. What role was it?
It was just a role. It wasn't. I also wasn't offered. Well, I was offered it after auditioning, but
oh, that's what I mean.
Yeah, it was very rarely am I like offered things, but it was it was Ibarra Naruse and Capellian. That was my first role I ever. My first voiceover role.
Yeah. So with that, I mean, before we all sort of show up to what we do a lot of other things like scooping ice cream or whatever kind of jobs you've had. Are there any general life skills you picked up along the way that you care to share that have unexpectedly served you well in your life as a voice actor? Whatever.
Trauma, probably.
I'm trying to think of it. Relevant skills.
Obviously, we all have it, right? We all have it. And I don't know your situation, but some of the, important parts of my teen and young adulthood was finding safe people to have big talks with. And if you can start to have those big talks, then you can start to have the processing that allows you to better represent the pain and trauma your characters are going through. Because it's not the same, but at least you understand a little. So, not that depression is a superpower, but it at least allows you some insight into, the plight that we all tell stories to each other thus far. I mean, if anyone's listening, they're not coming and checking in on us. So if we're telling stories to each other, then I think that's been the most meaningful, is that finding safe people to be that candid and honest with, then you can turn it into, well, then those characters deserve to have a bit of that as well. And ice cream.
Right, and
So I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever been much good at anything else throughout my life. But I guess I think back to those initial years, just kind of saving up money, working part-time jobs before I moved to, I'm from upstate New York originally, and then I moved to the city and lived there for about 5 years. And so when I was getting ready, I thought, well, I have to have a little nest egg to keep me afloat for a bit. I worked in a kitchen, just as a dishwasher. And it's not so much that there's like direct emotional parallels from being a dishwasher to being a voice actor, but I guess just as far as the work acumen you come in and you do your work, and whatever superfluous, elements or who you are off hours, like, nobody cares, or it doesn't matter. Just what matters is doing your job well, whatever it is, in whatever humble capacity, and do the job that you have been tasked with, and do it to the best of your ability. And I think that's important mindset to take with really anything you do, including voice acting. And it also made me very thankful, doing very hard physical labor and having these long days when I was doing temp work of the same kind when I was living in New York City, and I worked these long, arduous days working in kitchens, and then I would have a job as a voice actor, and it was like, oh my God, this is so wonderful, and I guess it really helped me to appreciate what I had in those moments, and it's not something to be taken for granted at all. So it just made me appreciative for what I had.
I don't know if any of my previous jobs necessarily helped, but to an extent, being an anime fan kind of helped me a lot with working in anime. I loved anime since I was a teenager, and I think it's helped me in the sense that I know what tropes are out there. I know some phrases. I don't speak Japanese, but I've caught enough words to where if something is in there and I hear it and the translation seems a little off to me, I kind of question it, and then the director will question it, and then they'll ask somebody. And that specific, the word stuff has kind of helped with, now that I do script adaptation, I can kind of question that and be like, I don't think this translation is quite right, and I need it to be right because this doesn't make sense, and I need to write it to where it makes sense. But just little stuff like that. Obviously you want, if you are coming from that angle, you want to be a professional when you're working on this stuff. You don't want to fan out in front of people. Unless it's like, I don't know, I guess maybe there's a little moment where you can be not a total spaz about it, but, because I definitely have peeked out to people before when I feel comfortable enough with them to do so, but, yeah, I think like to an extent, just, you know, knowing kind of the background of the genre for anime specifically, or like video games, if you're working on video games, I think that really can help you if you do it in a professional way.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to be able to show up as a whole person to whatever you put yourself into, in your career or otherwise. And I think, using an example as like a trauma or anything you go through, I think it really does come through when you can, not that it's depression, trauma, or superpowers, but they can sort of supercharge your.
I know I'll never be the same. Shook my world so hard again. Wish I washed away my sins. He's a dead man walking, blank stare in his eyes. Should have given up on the ones I trust. Never should have been surprised when they shot him down. Cold blood to the ground.